So I've arrived in Remich. I'm going to do some shopping. I'm going to fill up my tank, and then I am crossing the Moselle River, and I'm starting, I think, in Tettingen. I'm in Remich now, across from the Moselle, and there in the distance you can see the white tower of Schlossberg. So you can really appreciate the altitude of the ridge that was basically the center piece of the Saar-Moselle triangle, the Munsingen Ridge. Again, you can see from across the Moselle the heights of Belateswald, because we're basically facing Nenich. So it always strikes me with awe to see these height differences in the region. And many veterans later remembered it was as if the fight always went uphill. And if you walk these woods, if you walk these hills, you know what they mean. And you have to realize they did not come from this side. They came from the south. I'm driving straight into Nenich now from the west. And basically, if I would follow this road, I would drive all the way to Oscholz. So this is basically the Remich or Nenich, Sinz, Oscholz highway that goes all the way across the Saar-Moselle triangle. And of course, the 94th Infantry Division had to fight their way through inch by inch to get here, basically. So now I'm crossing the Moselle, and again in the distance you can see the little white tower that is Schlossberg. And so this is really, it's good to be back after over 2 years. The last time I was here with Frank Razzaboni, the son of a 301st Infantry Regiment soldier, and we did a tour. We had a great time. We had a great couple days, and now I'm back again. It's great. Now to my left is the Unterseebusch, or the Unterste Busch, as it is called in German, and to my right is the Lateswald, which extends all the way from Nenich to the northwest part of Tettingen. If you are in Butzdorf, you can see the Lateswald lying high on the ridge. So now we're approaching Sinz, the first houses of Sinz, and to the right you can see where the high windmills are. You can see Camp Holtz Woods. I decided to stop in Sinz for a short then and now of a former Company B headquarters that was in this town. And then when I drove in, it struck me that they have been doing radical reconstruction of the town in the last 2 years. So basically some of the buildings that were there a couple of years ago and that were easily recognizable as being part of the 94th Infantry Division history in the area, that were good for some fantastic dead and nows, are completely demolished. And as you can see, this is basically a construction site where I'm walking. And behind this house, which is still standing, there it comes. They have completely renewed the town. So all the World War II buildings are gone. All the visual evidence that you still might have with the 94th Infantry Division is gone. So I'm going to do a walkthrough. So behind me is the place, the spot where the square house was, where you see the two GIs running from the center of Sinz towards the Sinz-Remich highway, back towards the entrance of town where the 376th had a headquarters. And as you can see, this site has changed. It is completely different from what it was a little over 2 years ago. I'm really amazed. Wow, this is really, you know, mind-blowing. So perhaps in a couple of years, none of these buildings that remain from World War II will be left here. I mean, there's Some old farm buildings at the entrance of town, they are still here, but who knows, perhaps in a couple of years these will be torn down as well to make more room for buildings that are multi-level, that can offer more modern housing. And I mean, it is shocking what happened here. If you look to my back, all these old houses were demolished and new houses were put there. They completely changed this town. Next time I'm here on a tour, I won't be able to give people coming from the States visual reference as to the battles that took place here, because the site has been completely changed. Whatever. It's. I mean, I'm looking for words here. And away from the building activity, I'm back in the old village again, just a little further up the street. And you can see what the difference this is. These are the old farmhouses that line the road of this town, and this actual spot is where you see some 94th Infantry Division soldiers cross the street and they disappear in this little yellow house. But as you can see, it's in a bad shape, so perhaps in a couple of years this house will be gone as well. And then across the street is where some years ago I interviewed an old man who was telling me of his youth back here in 1945, 1946. His parents had lived there before the war. They were evacuated, and I recognized the place because of the stairs that lead up to the building. And after the war they rebuilt the place and he lived there. Perhaps he passed away in the past couple of years, and the place was sold and they are working on that also. And the famous picture of Sinz in ruins was taken from an upper floor window of these buildings. And here's the guest house I was referring to, where I met up with the old man. I'm glad to see that they are preserving the old rails because in the picture that was made here in 1945, this railing is visible in the picture. So this part, which is now painted gray to preserve it, it was, you know, lying. The other part was still erect, but this is the house. And then the photo was taken in that direction, towards the school, towards the church. So that's Sinz. As I make my way further into Sinz, passing the church, my aim is to get a good picture of Company B headquarters, which was in Sinz. But as you can see, along the main street there are some remaining houses that were there back in 1945, but the town is changing rapidly. The old town center, in this case, is still pretty much intact. This is the church. There's a small cemetery surrounding it, and from this cemetery you can look in the direction of Kreuzweiler and the Bahnhof. And basically the town is situated in a gully. So as you can see here, the terrain rises. Lots of old buildings still in the town. They were definitely there back in 1945, and you can see how much space there is between the houses. So moving between them during the fighting for Sinz would have been extremely difficult for the soldiers under artillery fire. So here I'm looking back towards the church, and a car is moving past me in the direction of Kreuzweiler. And looking back, here you can see Company A's headquarters in Sinz, which is the yellow building on the left side. It had a very sturdy basement, so it was a very suitable building to house a company headquarters in. All in all, Sinz very much breathes the atmosphere it had back in 1945. So this concludes my walk around of Sinz, and if you like these videos, then click the logo to subscribe to this channel. I hope you join history, and I hope you enjoyed this short video. Have a great day, and until next time.